Chris Lee and Blayne Gilmer here to preview Auburn's road trip to College Station to face Texas A&M. It'll be Auburn's second road game, and it'll be the conference opener for both teams. What we have, according to Vegas, is the Aggies as 7-point home favorites and over-under of 52.5. That makes for a predicted final score of 30-23. All of FPI, SP Plus, and Sagarin factoring in a 3-point home field advantage for Texas A&M. Also have the Aggies as 7-point favorites. Again, you can catch this one at 11 Central on ESPN. Auburn coming off a win over Samford, in which I don't know how much we learned. A&M rallied pretty well and throttled ULM after losing at Miami 2 weeks ago. Both teams playing some defense right now. Very excited to see what both these teams have in their SEC openers, Blayne.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how these quarterbacks, particularly Auburn with Payton Thorne, he had what I think might be a little bit of inflated sense of self-confidence after that Samford victory that did rack up some numbers, but also a little careless with the football, turned it over twice, threw 2 picks in that game. He showed off a little bit of running ability, but then you got Connor Weigman on the other side, who I think is playing as good a football as any quarterback in the SEC, like elite level, with Bobby Petrino there. Even in that Miami game, I thought Connor Weigman played really well. So can these two teams, kind of fix some of the glaring problems that they've had, which with Auburn, one of their issues was not being able to be ultra productive offensively, get that run game going, get some explosive plays through the air. They did that against Samford. And then, of course, Texas A&M kind of solved their secondary problems against ULM, but now can they do it against each other? That's really going to be the test here, Chris.
When Auburn's got the ball, the Tigers have run it 59% of the time this season. They have gotten 5.6 yards per running play, whereas A&M has given up 4.1 there. Auburn has thrown it for 7.4 yards per passing play. A&M has given up 7.0, hurt really by that outstanding performance by Tyler Van Dyke at Miami 2 weeks ago. Auburn scoring 44 a game. Texas A&M giving up a shade over 20. Turnover rates, Auburn 3.4% of the time, so they'll have to be more careful with the ball. A&M forcing it just 1.2% of the time. You mentioned Payton Thorne, statistically great game. I think threw for 280-something yards, ran it for another 127 or so, but did have 2 turnovers. Remember, 2 weeks ago in that win at Cal, he threw for 80-something yards. Auburn really had to lean on its defense. Cal couldn't hit a field goal in that one. But anyway, yeah, I'm very interested to see if Payton Thorne can bottle what he showed against Samford, and if A&M's pass defense is more like the elite unit it was a year ago, or the unit that leaked worse than any of us would have imagined 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big deal there when you're talking about Payton Thorne and you're talking about that offense there for Auburn. Can they get those explosives? That whether it's Johnson or Fairweather or whoever, those big target, Jay Fair, some of those guys that they're relying on to create explosives for you. But also too, Chris, is this when we see Jarquez Hunter really kind of come out into his own? What we thought, 11 carries in both of the first 2 games, and the high that he had was 53 against Cal. You would have thought he'd been a little bit more explosive against the Samford ball club. And actually him and Damari Alston both got stopped on some critical short yardage plays in that game. So I think you just need to see consistency out of Auburn, and that's a tough place to do it at Kyle Field with a defensive front that is immensely talented, that shuts down the run well. Whether you've got Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, McKinley Jackson, Walter Nolan, Fadil Diggs, that defensive front, Chris, is pretty sporty at stopping the run. It's that secondary that's the issue. So can Payton Thorne extend plays with his legs, because they're going to get a little bit of a pass rush on him, and then find guys in a similar fashion like Tyler Van Dyke did to some of those receivers. Got to tackle well in space if you're A&M on that side of the ball, but I'm looking forward to seeing those two things come to fruition, seeing which one is going to take advantage of the other's weakness, so to speak.
Yeah, and again, rushing defense where A&M had trouble last year, been better this year, but 4.1 per carry versus ULM last week, and that's not adjusted for sacks. So just really curious what we've got in the A&M defense. Suspect it's going to be pretty good, but just some mixed signals so far. We love Connor Weigman, and when A&M's got the ball, they'll lean heavily on him. Aggies scoring 44 a game, and Auburn giving up just 12.3. A&M running it 40% of the time, 4.9 yards per rushing play, 7.4 per passing play. Auburn giving up just 4.0. Secondary thought to be a strong point of Auburn's football team. And I know Auburn has not played juggernaut offenses, but the secondary's performed, I think, at about what you would have hoped for Auburn. And I think Donovan Kaufman might have been hurt, missed some time with injury, but I presume he'll be back in this one. He's their safety, who's pretty good. Turnover rate, Auburn forcing turnovers on 3.7% of snaps. That's outstanding. A&M turning it over just 1.4% of the time. That's pretty good. What are you liking in this side of the matchup where Auburn's defense statistically has been pretty good so far? Again, a lot of that's going to be opponent, but I'm really eager to see if Auburn's defense has returned something closer to the glory days of Auburn football than what we saw a year ago, where it just wasn't very good.
No, it wasn't, but I think they've been okay. They did what they needed to do. You've seen some guys step up and become, a little bit of assert some leadership in roles where guys have went down with injury. They lost Austin Keys to a thumb injury at linebacker. You know, against in that Cal game or before going into that Cal game. And you've seen some guys step up like Eugene Asante at that linebacker role has done well. Nehemiah Pritchett has been out. And you've seen Kayan Lee, a freshman, step up and play corner and make a couple big plays in that Cal game. So you've seen guys be able to step up. And I think that's a good mark for, Hugh Freeze early on to say he's been able to build some depth to overcome some injuries and things like that. But you mentioned that Auburn secondary has played well. They're going to have to play well, Chris, because this is a immensely talented wide receiver core that A&M is going to have. And it's been a different guy every game that stepped up. It was Evan Stewart against, Miami, Zaniah Smith this past week, and Ja'Day Walker. I mean, they've had a lot of guys, Noah Thomas the first week. So it seems like it's a different guy every time. And Moose Muhammad hasn't really even got rolling yet. They haven't got their tight ends tremendously involved. Ruben Owens is a talented guy that's starting to come into his own as the running back position. Got him a little bit of extended run this past week. And I just think Connor Weigman at 70.5% pass completion is playing within, not just within the parameters of Bobby Petrino's offense, but he's starting to become a guy who is really seeing the entire field. And I think that's going to be something that's big against an Auburn team that's going to have some guys that are experienced players in the SEC. When you look at Jalen Simpson, when you look at if Nehemiah Pritchett is healthy and ready to go for this one, Asante has proven himself to be a leader. They've got guys up front that have been around a while as well. So I think it's going to be a matchup of, okay, as always in the SEC, who can run the football, who can stop the run, because that's going to put the pressure on the two quarterbacks. And if that comes down to it, and both of these fronts are able to limit the running back production of the other ones, then I trust Connor Weigman more in this game. And I really like the Aggies offense to do well at home against Auburn in this one.
Yeah, Asante was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week a couple of weeks ago, where he made all kinds of stuff happen. Check the Kaufman health. We're doing this on Sunday night, but I think he's been a little banged up lately. Been a key guy for Auburn, as I mentioned earlier. Couple more things before we make picks here. Blayne, special teams. A&M, which was pretty good there a year ago, ranked 18th in SP Plus's special teams ratings. After this most recent week, Auburn ranked 80. Penalty yards. Auburn has been fairly disciplined under Hugh Freeze, 47 penalty yards per game, A&M 64. So, Yeah, Aggies probably have a little bit of an edge on special teams. Auburn maybe a little bit of an edge in discipline so far, although they'll be playing in a pretty loud environment. That's where you see some false starts and stuff like that pop in. But I'm just very interested to see what we get out of Auburn's quarterback play. Can Thorne replicate what he's done so far? Do you see Robbie Ashford, who at times has looked pretty good too? Is Auburn's defense for real? Anxious to see that. Bottom line for Auburn, still got a lot of questions. Again, questions don't mean you're bad. We don't know at this point. Always trust Hugh Freeze to build an offense, and that's maybe coming along a little bit. But right now, I feel like and this feels crazy to say after last year, I just feel like even after that Miami game 2 weeks ago, the breakdowns for A&M were not really where you would have expected them. They were where A&M has been strong lately. I just trust the Aggies in College Station to win this one, and that's going to be my pick.
Yeah, I think so too. I just think ultimately that Connor Weigman and those receivers are going to prove too much, especially at home when it comes for A&M against that Auburn defense that I think is playing. Listen, Ron Roberts has brought an identity to that defense. They play like their hair's on fire. Really, I think it's a great style of play that you're seeing out of Auburn defensively, but they are banged up a little bit. Kaufman had a possible concussion deal that I don't think he saw time against Samford because of that. Is he, out of the protocol when it comes time for this game? Nehemiah Pritchett hasn't played to this point this year. Does he play, in this one as well? So there's a lot of factors over there. I just don't think Auburn has the depth right now to go on the road and beat a Texas A&M team that I think will operate at a very high level. Offensively, I really love what Connor Weigman's doing. I trust him more than I do Payton Thorne. So give me Texas A&M to win this one, and I think they cover as well. I think you're going to see Anaya Smith and Evan Stewart really have big games in this one against whatever DBs that Auburn rolls out there, because I just think they're that good, and I like that defensive front for Texas A&M also to get pressure on Payton Thorne.
We are previewing every single SEC game involving SEC and FBS teams for the coming season. Best way to get those, hit the subscribe button. If you hit the like button, that helps our analytics a little bit. We are doing wall-to-wall football content this year, daily shows from 11 to noon, live reaction Saturday night. Blayne, your morning report has been outstanding for fans wanting to know kind of the latest developments day to day. So good job with those. Anyway, catch all our football content here at Southeastern 14. Thank you for watching. I am Chris Lee. He's Blayne Gilmer. We'll see you again soon with more SEC football content here at Southeastern 14.